After 7 long phases, finally everything is over. The results are out, and now it's time to sit and see what went down. To discuss this long, strange trip, we are with Professor Surajit C. Mukhopadhyay, the Dean of Social Sciences in Sister Nivedita University. And Professor Mukhopadhyay is not just a very eminent sociologist, he's an author and a veteran political observer. Dr. Mukhopadhyay, this time again we saw like something similar to what happened in 2021. Everybody said the elections were going to, at least in West Bengal, everybody said that the elections were going to go one way. The exit polls predicted something. The political observers made, the predictions that were on two different ends of the spectrum. But somehow, once again, Mamata Banerjee, Trinamool Congress, defied all odds. There were so many allegations of corruption. There was, they refuted practically all arguments that said that they were going down, and they came back stronger than what their performance in 2019. In fact, they're as strong as they've ever been. How do you account for that?
This result is unexpected and also expected. Unexpected because the hype that the BJP had put up through Narendra Modi, through Amit Shah's regular visits to Bengal and other parts of India, and the slogan that after this election, this round of elections will give them 400 seats, it was quite expected in the mainstream media and in the kind of the right-wing political circles that this would come true. On the other hand, the campaign divided the populace like nothing else had ever been done before. And the more polarized the voters became, the more they pushed, the BJP pushed people into the folds of the Trinamool. So that is one of the things that has happened. The minorities and others who are not communalized thought that the only way they can rescue themselves and the constitution and the polity that they are used to would be to side with Mamata, because she offers the strongest resistance possible to the communalization of the polity. That's number one. Number two, I think that corruption is an issue, but has not become a big issue, though we anticipated that it would play a significant role in Bengal politics. But like, so many corruption scandals and scams that have taken place in India, I would say that, the reason why it doesn't make any sense for the electorate, ultimately when the voting comes to, the situation comes to voting, is that people have normalized this corruption. They think that political parties, political leaders are going to be corrupt, are going to do this, and that it happens in those circles. On the other hand, even if they are corrupt, they are giving us certain things which allow us to lead our lives. That may not be a very happy existence, that may not be an existence of surplus, but definitely an existence of sustenance. And I think that this kind of rationality works. You're trading corruption, which is an ethical issue. How ethical are you in public space? How ethical are you in politics? Vis-a-vis, what do you get from a corrupt administration? And if what you get from the corrupt administration weighs far more than what you would lose because they are corrupt, I think you vote the way the people in Bengal has voted. So I think that is why it is expected and not also unexpected that this would come about. And the last point that I would like to make is that I think Narendra Modi overplayed his hands in Bengal. Hectoring, sermonizing, threatening, trying to make a kind of a case for more rigorous administration if he comes to power or if they come to power. I think backfired. Bengal is a composite culture. It's very, very difficult to divide people along Hindu and Muslim lines because both the communities have shared spaces for a long period of time. We have very common items of cultural heritage to share, food being one of them. And then someone comes and speaks to you in Hindi and hectors you and chastises you. I think that actually backfired. So he overplayed his hands and he, rubbished, Bengali sentiments. And this kind of tokenism, speaking garbled Bangla to attract people. I mean, I think that's an old trick. It doesn't work anymore. So I would have expected that Modi would lose. And I told so many people that, they're not going to sweep as much as they expect their own leaders to do so. So I wasn't completely surprised. But I am surprised by the fact that the left and the Congress did not perform as well as some people thought, basing on the idea that the Trinamool Congress is a corrupt organization. I think that's where the surprises is.
But the BJP has managed to bring about a kind of polarization on religious lines, and that is something that the present West Bengal government, Mamata Banerjee, has not particularly discouraged, because we have seen a kind of competitive communalism thriving in West Bengal. We saw even during this particular Ram Navami celebration, the BJP and the Trinamool chanting Jai Sri Ram to the point that one was not distinguishable from the other. So where is this heading, do you think? At some point, isn't this kind of merging towards a very confusing point in Bengal politics? Because there is, as you said, the left and the Congress don't seem to have been able to make any kind of a comeback from their present debacle. So there is no proper ideological opposition to the BJP, because ideologically, do you think Mamata is giving the right kind of opposition to the BJP?
On the question of competitive communalism, this is not something new that the Trinamool has brought in. I think the Indian National Congress has played this game for a long period of time. If you look at the way that they took the locks away from Ram Janambhoomi on the Babri Masjid Ram Janambhoomi temple, the way they supported, the anti-alimony lobby for that Muslim lady who had asked for alimony in the divorce case. And therefore pandering to the kind of uniform civil code, but not really messing with it at the same time. I mean, that has been the kind of a Congress kind of politics for a long period of time, underpinned by the so-called North Indian sensibility. What Mamata has done particularly unique is that she's brought that into Bengal, right? So she's matching one kind of communalism by another kind of communal gesture or communal attitude. And I think that most of it is performative. I mean, there's not much substance in this from either the BJP or the Trinamool. I mean, I know that the Ram Navami celebrations tended to be very violent, especially in Howrah and certain parts of Murshidabad, and the pelting of stones and rioting, etc., etc. But they were contained and they were limited. And I think that even those who were indulging in them were not really thinking in terms of, clinching the issue at that time. But they were really, upping the ante, as it were. What I would like to say that, it's very difficult to sow the seeds of a communal divide in Bengal. And I have a reason for this. You see, Bengal, like Punjab, is a state that was divided by the British on the two-nation theory. And people who were booted out of East Bengal, or then East Pakistan, should have been carrying with them a lot of animosity and animus, and they did. But I don't think that that kind of an animosity ever played a very significant role in Bengal politics. Thousands and thousands and millions of refugees came over, carrying with them stories of trauma, of hatred, of murder, of practically genocide, really, which is now recognized as genocide. And you did not see that either in the Siddhartha Ray government or of course in Jyoti Basu's long tenure and then Buddha Bhattacharya. I mean, they could contain it. But they were not the only ones who were containing it. And I'm quite sure that there were local level leaders, community leaders, who were playing a very significant role in underplaying the tensions and the trauma of this displaced people who had come over to this side of Bengal. So Bengal actually hosted refugees who were booted out of their home and hearth, but did not allow that kind of politics to play out in the public arena. Now, therefore, for people like Modi and Shah and others to come and trying to instigate a kind of 1947 or 1971 scenario is an absurdity. And I think that one of the lessons of history is that you don't learn lessons from history. And that is where Mamta stole a march, because she could match these kind of performances on her own. And suddenly you realize in Bengal that the electorate is divided between Christians and Muslims and Hindus and SCs and STs, etc., which I think was absent in a way, not really absent, but also underplayed by left politics. So on that score, I think I would say that the right wing and the communal forces would have to rethink their strategy of trying to get a grip in Bengal politics.
Why do you think that the left and the Congress aren't being able to, find their way back from, from the wilderness, political wilderness in which they found themselves in? Because this time, if the political observers were almost all unanimous that they were expecting a rise in the vote share of the left and the Congress, which did not happen. In fact, the situation got far worse. Last time at least Congress got 2 seats. This time Congress could win only 1, and they lost a very, very big leader in Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who lost the Baharampur seat which he'd been winning since 1999. So why can't they find their footing back, in Bengal again?
I think the expectation that the left would come back in this election, not with a great majority, but win some seats, raise its vote share, was not something that was confined to a few. A large number of people did think about it. And I think that they were judging the politics of the nation and of West Bengal with the yardstick of ethics in public life. What Aristotle would say, how ethics is important in public life, in politics, and how you understand what is good and what is important, etc., etc. And I think that is a very confined argument at this moment amongst people who are judging politics in terms of ethics and morals. And that is not going to take us forward. That's number one. Number two, I think that the win of the left front in, let's say, 1977 and thereafter, and the situation today in socio-economic terms, when they are failing to win, are 2 different contexts in politics and history. A, you have now a workforce that is completely de-unionized. You can see how little role the CITU plays in Bengal politics. Union activities have been reduced. Big factories producing primary goods are not in existence. So your ability to create a workers' unity is also very limited. You have practically transferred the economy onto the gig economy. So people are always, living at the edge of their livelihood, what we call a precarious situation, and therefore the idea of precariat has come in place of the proletariat. And this kind of a precariousness has actually taken the workforce away from militant unionized politics, which I think was the most important basis for left politics to develop and all over the world, right? That's number two. Number three, I think the left has to rethink its strategy of reading Marx, reading Lenin, strategizing on those kind of things, re-evaluating Stalin and all that kind of stuff, and bring in a lot more indigenous ideas, a lot more things that would actually appeal. And you could see in this campaign that the left was doing this. I mean, and you had people who were strumming guitar and singing popular kind of songs. They were kind of parodying, popular songs. They were trying to, culturally move in to the popular space. And I think that will take some time because people are not used to seeing, the left in this kind of a popular space. But that popular space is now completely populated by the TMC. See, so you recollect that when the TMC came to power first time, they went out to cultivate film stars and singers and other kind of people and gave them a platform, put them up in even railway ministries and other places, for God's sake. I mean, they went out quoting these people just to take away the big plank from the left propaganda politics, which is that these are the kind of people who would, argue on behalf of the left. So the left has not been able to replenish that social capital, and that's a very important argument I would like to make. That, in the last 10 years, this last decade or so, the left has been left without the kind of stalwarts. I mean, look at when, the left was fighting Indira Gandhi. You had people like Utpal Datta. You had people like Ashok Mukhopadhyay. You had a very vibrant theatre, agitprop, people who were not necessarily with the CPIM, but who were with the left and who created a social and political milieu in which the politics of the left could take shape. That is missing. That groundwork is missing. Maybe in some pockets they are recovering, but by and large, that's not there. And the third point, which I also raised earlier, you see, the polarization of the politics that Modi and Amit Shah successfully did was it pushed people into the Trinamool fold precisely because people felt that they could work as a bulwark, as a kind of wall, a shield against the division of the society, against the depredations of the right wing. The fact that there was this fear of the constitution being changed, that the word secular would be replaced, and who would fight for them the best, and the obvious answer for them would be the Trinamool, because they already had that organization. So organization was very important, that they were in the government, and apparently that they were at loggerheads with the BJP. So we would not like the votes to be divided. And you can see how ISF actually withered away very completely from the scene. There's not only the left, but look at the ISF angle. I mean, Muslims did not go with the ISF, all right? And that's a lesson for people who feel that the Muslims or any minority, or maybe an ethnic group, actually is a vote bank. There are nothing called vote banks. There are only opportunities to certain people at certain points of time.
So now you're talking about how the Trinamool kind of took over the left and the Congress's political space. Now that left the field open for the BJP, who's been the second biggest power in the state since 2019. But still, don't you think that they seem to be facing a kind of a cultural block, for want of any better word, when it comes to West Bengal? I mean, they're the main opposition, but they're still not there, if you know what I mean. I mean, there is not so much acceptability of the BJP ideology among the people, and the reason why BJP gets the votes, do you think, is because people are more looking for an alternative which they cannot get, and that is the only thing that is there?
A fair question, because I think that the right wing is located in North India and in West India. And that is one of the major difference with other right wing parties in the world. right? If you look at Viktor Orban in Hungary, or if you look at Jean-Marie Le Pen in France, even Trump. They go all over the nation. But here, specifically, Hindi speaking people who have incorporated also Marathi and Gujarati speaking people who are trying to dominate the right wing space. So, they themselves are constrained and limited, number one. Number two, each of the political discourses are within a cultural milieu, is a context. And I think that even from 2019, if you look at it, that many visits that Modi and Amit Shah has made, they have not been able to gel with the people culturally. It is one thing to taunt Mamata Banerjee or other Bengal leaders. It's another thing to do finger wagging and go into rhetorics. But there is a sensibility about about culture, which they have actually trampled upon. I'll give you one example. Look at what they did when Amit Shah was moving around North Calcutta to the bust of Vidyasagar in the Vidyasagar College. It's a big scandal. Look at the way Amit Shah sat in the chair reserved for Rabindranath Tagore in Vishwabharati. It was a big, noise after that. How can you do that? So every time, they come, they put their foot into their mouth. So cultural blocks are there because you see a right-wing party like the BJP or its allies and the RSS, they don't understand difference, cultural difference. They think that they can steamroll this cultural difference by talking about Ram, by talking about being Hindu. But being Hindu is also, a matter of variation. If you read, for example, as I was reading, K.M. Sen's Hinduism, you will see the kind of variation that Kiti Mohan Sen is talking about, all right? And we know that. For example, our Hinduism is imbued with Sufism, with Vaishnavism. Bauls have played a very important role in the cultural life of Bengal. Do you understand Bauls? I don't think so. And maybe many people would not be able to talk about it. To be fair to the Modis and the Shahs, they're addressing people who may not know much about it. But they have been imbued in this and been brought up in this. As I said, it's a composite culture. And they are not being able to put a foot into this, number one. Number two, the caste equation in Bengal is quite different from the caste equation in the north. A right-wing party always plays according to certain kind of caste sensibilities. And that is not the kind of rhythm that they would find in Bengal. So I think both on the count of culture, which is, I would say, a historical legacy of how modern Bengal has developed, when you say culture, a set of values. And then you look at this kind of caste equation, the hierarchy of caste, that is creates spaces within the caste, the manner in which certain castes operate. These have also been, completely a different set of equations. Right from the time Raja Ram Mohan Roy arrives on the scene, to Vidyasagar's reforms, to the Kazi Nazrul Islam's, syncretic, acts of, writing Shama Sangit and a Muslim who sings Shama Sangit, to the Bauls who transcend and transgress boundaries of the Hindu and the Muslim. I think that all of this plays a very, very important part in making a difference, which a right-wing party does not have the political and cultural wherewithal to understand, far less to unlock.
Do you think BJP, after this result, has a future in Bengal, or are they going to be relegated to the spot of the perennial runners-up?
BJP will have to rethink the entire strategy of looking into Bengal. And it's not an easy task. They are not exactly known for their intellectual finesse and their capacity to read and to absorb different strands and to understand what is, variation and variety. So once they learn these kind of things, I think it will be easier for them to penetrate the political space of Bengal. But they'll always get some seats, obviously, because there's going to be disenchantment. You see the Bengali voter, or the Bengal voter for that matter, is really caught between the devil and the deep sea. And in that kind of an interplay of the devil and the deep sea, the BJP would find some returns, obviously, all the time. But if the BJP wants to have a hegemony, which is what you're talking about, a hegemony, much like what they enjoyed in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan for a long period of time, which is now again dented today, I think that they would have to rethink the entire strategy. And that, as I said, requires a kind of intellectual finesse, which at the moment the BJP repertoire does not possess.
I mean, do you buy the theory that there is a secret understanding between the BJP and Trinamool, between Mamata and Modi?
Mamata is the best bet for the RSS. And the RSS requires that the left be kept out. The left is seen to be atheistic, rationalist, drawing its philosophical sustenance from across the borders, alien therefore, and actually is the exact opposite of what the RSS stands for in many, many ways, right? So as an organized force, which actually started by adulating the Nazis and the fascists in 1935, and created a kind of a cadre which actually was a copy of the SS and other kind of fascist paramilitaries of Europe. I think that it is quite natural that they would have an animosity with the left. And if they fail to make their own presence felt in Bengal, it is quite natural again in politics to, support a force which will do their job for them. So I think that RSS, which is the kind of spirit behind the BJP politics, the kind of controlling, the controlling, what should I say, discourse of the right wing in India, would much prefer to have Mamata, get some seats, be satisfied, not to get into much of a trouble, rather than seeing a resurgent left, which may shut down many of the schools that the RSS runs and which Mamata allowed to come up, and to have a kind of ambivalent attitude towards the RSS. She was heard saying that RSS is good, BJP is bad, then again some people are good, some people are bad. I don't think that the left politics allows this kind of a selective good and selective bad, and which the RSS knows. So I think that in terms of electoral politics, it is a much safer bet for the RSS to back Trinamool. Whether they have a formal pact or not is something that we will never know. We can only speculate. But it makes sense for the RSS to back the Trinamool.
Mamata Banerjee's got about 29 to 30 seats so far, and she has said that she's going to be a part of the India Alliance. What happens now at the centre, and what role do you think Trinamool will play here?
Well, if the India bloc is in the opposition, and it's a big if, because the last has not been heard about this election, then Mamata will play definitely a big role in the opposition politics. And since the margin between the opposition and the government will be very narrow and thin, she would be able to leverage much more political space, much more of the funds, much more of the elbow room than before. That's one. If India forms the government by having other parties joining India bloc, and talks are underway as we hear, then Mamata is going to be even more important. And that is very, very, I mean, that's the writing on the wall. It's going to be very important, and I think she's angling for that. But where do we go from here? I think that one of the tasks that the opposition can do for themselves and for India at large is to detoxify the polity, and that's a major task. This kind of poison that has been injected into the Indian polity, this society, cultural spaces over the last 10 years, odd years and more, has spoiled inter-community relations, has spoiled, people's lives and aspirations. people feel afraid of expressing themselves. We are at the bottom of press freedom. We have been chastised by many international think tanks for lacking in press freedom, for being called an authoritarian democracy, for having a huge inequality in income. So all these things are where we go now. That is what the opposition has to do. Raise these issues in the parliament, keep on hammering these issues so that you move the political template from the Hindu, Muslim, Maulana, Maulvi, Pakistan, Muslim bashing, to a more realistic politics which will take India forward and which will give hope to young people who require jobs, who require security, who also have dreams, and which can be shattered by the breaking of the peace.
Dr. Mukhopadhyay made some really interesting points out here, and one of the steps forward right now, when we can expect a stronger opposition at the center, is the steps that need to be taken to detoxify the present polity in the country and move forward rather than continue with the divisiveness and the spread of hatred and insecurity. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Suhrid, for having me on your camp.